Networks and business. Business, selling and buying, is often seen as a transaction between two parties. However, in modern businesses, the number of parties involved is very often more than two. Already, with 3 parties, we have a business network. In business networks, the focus should be both in creating and also in capturing value. Creating value we tend to understand, but we often forget the importance of the second part. In other words, we forget how important it is also to capture value. Let me tell you a story. I had a friend who spent a lot of time in the gym. Every month he paid 100 euros for access to class and training sessions and spent at least 10 hours in the gym each week. After a year or two, he became very fit, and gradually his friends started to ask for tips. He had a lot of experience, so his advice was solid and valuable. However, his friends were not willing to pay. He did not know how to capture value. He decided to offer his services to the gym. The gym was short of staff and offered to give him 20 euros for each lesson he gave to incoming customers. The customers were paying 60 euros for an hour with a personal trainer, and he felt it was unfair that he was getting only a third of the fee. He needed to do something about this. Gradually, my friend started to collect a potential customer base. In the beginning, it was only a list of friends on Facebook and LinkedIn. He noticed that different gyms were offering free entrance if you brought in potential new customers. In turn, my friend charged his potential customer 50 euros for an hour with a personal training service and used the gyms that gave him free access, thus cutting his cost. The gyms were looking to expand their customer base and hence were looking at new potential customers. This situation looked far better. The value he was creating, in other words 1 hour of personal training, remained the same, but his income had substantially changed. He started to think, could he create even more value? He had by this time become very fit and decided to participate into a fitness competition. To his surprise, he won the competition and noticed that he was becoming well known. Gradually, he started to create a brand for himself. Instead of standing as a personal trainer next to his customer, he decided to put his training tips online and to create an online fitness farm. This move changed his earning potential substantially. The above story describes how one can play around with value creation and value capturing and substantially change one's earning potential. To do this, however, one needs to be aware of the connections and dependencies which exist in a network between different parties, and one needs to have the understanding to be able to leverage the network and one's position in the network. In Finland, each flat is owned by an individual owner. Together, the House of Flats has a board of governors. The board, Party A, will negotiate an agreement with Party B, a maintenance company, to take care of the house. In the agreement, they will agree on the service level and individual prices. The individual house owners will want the board to make a reasonable and hopefully a cheap agreement. The board should, however, be careful. By law, the maintenance company should also monitor any repairs made by an individual household, or when selling his house, the individual house owner needs a certificate from the maintenance company. The individual household has to purchase these services from the maintenance company, and this means the maintenance company, because it has a practical local monopoly, might be tempted to price these services high. Companies can try and benefit their networks and network position to create a competitive advantage. At some stage, the regulator might rule that an individual company, because it has a high market share, might be using its network position to prevent competition. An interesting case was the case of the local dairy producer. First of all, it had a relatively high market share on the buyer side. In other words, most farms were providing milk to this single dairy producer. From the perspective of competition, of course, it was difficult to enter the market because any market entrant wanting to collect the milk locally would need to get the farms to switch. The efficiency of milk collection is also very much dependent on how many kilometers one has to drive per each liter of collected milk. If your market share of farms is low, you will have to drive more and you are less efficient. A company which collected its milk in another country decided to enter the local Finnish market. Milk can be sold to the consumer as milk, or higher value added products like cheeses and butter can be manufactured. The entering company did not want to limit itself to supplying higher value added products, but wanted to enter the market on all levels, buying from local producers, selling milk to the consumer, and also producing value added, in other words, cheeses and butter. This led into a milk war and into a court case. The local courts have ruled that the local dairy producer is using its high market share to prevent a new entrant from coming into the market. The price of milk sold to the consumer has dropped very low. The market entrants have argued that the consumer price of milk is so low that milk cannot be collected from the farm, processed and delivered to the consumer at such a low price. In its defense, the local dairy company is arguing that all costs need to be covered since a big percentage of the collected milk is processed into higher value goods, and the cost of collecting milk is covered actually by the butter and cheese sold. Doing business in networks is all about creating, and one should not forget also about capturing value. It is intuitive to focus on value creation, but less intuitive to focus on value capturing. The art of value capturing is best learned through the analysis and study of cases.